Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. Because this is Black History Month, man, I am so excited about our next guest. But before we introduce our next guest, I'm doing something very unique, and hopefully this could be a standard for the podcast, for the program. I am doing a co-host today, and so I want to welcome to the show my brother, my dear friend, Pastor Sam Atchison. Brother Sam, come on.
How are you, my friend?
I am
Thank
doing
you so
well.
much for having me.
Yes. And so, Pastor Sam, I'm gonna let you just jump in and take us away today and introduce and set the platform for our guest today as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so thank you so much for that. I have the honor and the privilege of welcoming to the podcast His Honor Judge Paul McLemore, who has been a trendsetter and a pace setter really all of his life. So Judge McLemore, let me welcome you, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to participate. I have somewhat diminished capacity these days because I just celebrated my 84th birthday.
Happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday, sir. Yes. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And don't worry about the diminished capacity. You're probably still smarter than me and Kevin, so don't worry about it.
Combined.
I don't know about that.
So Judge McLemore.
But you have to forgive me if I have some gaps in my communication because I seriously have dementia. There's no question about it.
Okay.
I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amen. And even there, you're a trendsetter because for so many, that's a cause for shame. But we'll talk about, let's get into who Paul McLemore is.
Yes.
You were, according to your, to what I read about you, sir, you were born in Fort Worth, Texas, and then at an early age moved to Buffalo, New York. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you were, what was it like living in Buffalo? I mean, it's cold, besides being cold, you went from a hot environment to a cold environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Fort Worth, but I was born in the house of my paternal grandmother, who I thought was white. At least she looked white.
Okay.
Grandmother Kitty, her name was Catherine McLemore, but they called her Kitty for some reason. But anyway, I was born there, but I didn't stay there very long. I really grew up. I didn't grow up, but I spent the first 40 years of my life until I was 6 years old with my maternal grandmother, Rachel Baldridge, who was a descendant from the Cherokee Indian tribe in Oklahoma.
Okay.
and then my father worked on the New York Central Railroad and often traveled between New York all the way down into the Midwest, down into Texas. In fact, I rode the train from New York, from Buffalo down to Fort Worth, Texas. And my father was a sleeping car porter. And he worked with two famous people. I remember him talking about both of them, one of whom he described as crazy. Well, he described both of them crazy. One he always referred to as Chicago Red, and the other one was Detroit Red.
Interesting.
He worked with both of them as sleeping car porters.
Okay.
And it turns out that Chicago Red was Red Fox, and Detroit Red was Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, yes.
Wow. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. But I remember him having parties in our apartment. He'd close the bedroom door, my bedroom door, because he'd be playing these albums of Red Fox and you know.
Yeah, let's work with your ears.
And he used to always talk about that crazy Detroit Red, which was Malcolm X.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, did he know A. Philip Randolph out of curiosity? Because, of course, he started that the union, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters.
He spoke of A. Philip Randolph. Yes, he did. I don't know how much he knew him, but he often spoke of.
Okay.
Not in complimentary terms, though, because as you know, A. Philip Randolph was homosexual, and in those days, you know, homosexuality was a real bad thing.
I understand. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So then you moved from Fort Worth to Buffalo.
I was 6 years old.
And so you grew up.
I moved from Kansas. My grandmother Rachel lived in Chanute, Kansas, which is right on the Oklahoma border.
Okay.
But I was 6 years old before I saw my mother.
Wow.
But she was in Buffalo.
Wow.
Okay.
And I was 6 years old before I even saw my mother. And that's when I first met my beloved sister, Cheryl, who's gone on to be with the Lord. But, and then I spent 12 years in Buffalo, from 6 to 18. And I went to the public schools there and to the high school. And then when I graduated from high school, I joined Marines.
Okay, I just want to, again, you know, along the way, you know, I'm looking at, you know, as we're discussing these points in your life, I'm looking at how you distinguish yourself. For example, I understand you played varsity basketball and football, and you were awarded the Rensselaer Award for the highest GPA in math and science.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising. I always was a good student. I was always, quote, smart.
Okay.
My mother at one time before she died, God bless her, she had copies of all of my report cards. I don't know where they are now, but
it sounds like a mother.
I had straight A's all throughout my whole career, from kindergarten on to when I graduated from high school.
Wow.
And I graduated from high school, I learned this later on, summa cum laude, that's with highest honor.
Yes, wow. Yes.
Graduated from college, Trenton State, magna cum laude, which is with high honors. And I graduated from Penn Law School, just barely got through.
Well, it says cum laude, so, you know. I graduated from college. Thank you, Lord.
Cum laude, just barely got through, man.
So you graduate high school, and then you go into the Marine Corps. Now, I find this interesting because you went into the Marine Corps, what, in 57?
6.
56. Okay, right after high school. Now, what's interesting, I find interesting is because you were again, this keeping with this theme of your being this trendsetter, you went into the Marines at a time when there were very few Black Marines. I know this because my father was actually in the Marine Corps just a few years ahead of you. He went in around 50, around 1950 at 18 when he graduated high school. He went from Greenville, South Carolina to Parris Island, South Carolina. And there were hardly any, there were very few Blacks going into the Marine Corps. What was it like for you just a few years later? Again, we're talking within 10 years of the armed services being desegregated by President Truman, and they talk about, even now they talk about, 65 years later, they talk about the Marines being looking for a few good men, and the few and the proud. What was this like for you? Go from Buffalo, and I guess you went to Parris Island as well?
Yeah. My experiences in Parris Island essentially are what made me the person I am today, really. I mean, I was an unusually good student. I mean, I graduated fifth or fourth or fifth out of over 600 students. That's why I graduated summa cum laude. I had a GPA of like 98.4 or something.
Right.
And four girls were higher than mine. But I had high expectations. I went to the guidance counselor, and he said, "What do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be a doctor," and I did. You can see that right in my 1956 school yearbook under ambition. It says doctor. I want to be a doctor. And he says, "Oh," he said, "Are you serious about that?" I said, "Yeah, I want to be a doctor." He said, "Did you ever consider the military?" And I'm wondering, what are you talking about, the military? I want to be a doctor. But his racist comment was prophetic, because I ended up joining the Marines after I couldn't find a job anywhere in Buffalo.
Wow.
So
after being, I was voted the boy most likely to succeed in my class, and I was one of the first Black students to ever go to my high school. I had to take 2 buses to get to my high school because my mother worked on day jobs to clean white folks' house out in the this area where my high school was, way beyond where I should have gone. Okay. And my mother, this one lady who my mother cleaned her house for $8 and bus fare. That's what my mother made. Mm-hmm. $8 a day in bus fare, and I'd have to take 2 buses to get out there. But it was right across the street from the high school I went to. Okay. So this lady allowed us to use her address for me to get into East High School. So Buffalo East High School was located in the eastern part of Buffalo, New York, which was predominantly populated by Eastern European people, most of whom were Polish people. Mm-hmm. That's why I love Polish sausage to this day. They call it kielbasa.
Yes.
But anyway, I was rambling a little bit there. I don't know.
That's okay. That's fine. You're fine.
Yeah. But anyway, I look back, a lot of this stuff I learned after the fact from researching, as poor as the research proved to be. But at the time, in the early 50s, which went up to 55, 56, we were the nation was in a recession. I didn't know anything about that. We'd been poor all our lives. Okay. But I grew up in the Willard Park projects, housing projects. They were post-World War II housing projects. Okay. And they were really the center of an enclave of African-American communities, we were pretty much surrounded by all white communities. That's why I went to PS 47, Public School 47.
Okay.
And there was just a handful of blacks in there, but it was an integrated school. That's why I got a great education. My grammar school, it was 1 through 8, graduated from there, took 2 buses to get to my high school, and was one of the first 11 blacks in my high school.
Okay.
Before those 11 blacks got there, Buffalo East High School rarely competed in the city football league with any success. We won 4 straight years of the Stanley Cup, which is because the team integrated with a lot of blacks. I forget their names, all the guys that played, but.
That's okay.
But anyway, we won the city championship 4 years in a row, 56, 7, 8, 9, I guess it is.
Wow.
But I got newspaper clippings and stuff that reflect that. But anyway, Buffalo Side became a football powerhouse and basketball, really.
So here you are. You have this experience of being being in this multicultural environment, okay? However, it happened, because you're in high school, 52 to 56, that's before Brown v. Board, okay? So essentially, your experience, it's before Brown v. Board of Education. It's before the Supreme Court ruling, okay? It was being litigated, but it hadn't yet been decided. So here you are, essentially in a situation that's ahead of the curve in terms of having a multicultural educational experience. You're at the top of the class, and then you go down, you join the Marine Corps, you go down to Paris Island. What did you run into down there?
Shock. Brutality, humiliation. But, that happens to all Marines because, when you go, I don't care if you're white or black, the whole purpose of boot camp is to, and the closest demonstration of Paris Island was in the movie Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
If you've never seen that movie and you want to know about the Marines, you watch Full Metal Jacket, the first part of it, because it's all about boot camp and what they had is I forget his name, but the actor that plays the drill instructor was actually a real drill instructor. And initially, the producers of the movie brought him on as a consultant, but he was so realistic that they gave him the part. They gave him the part. Yeah. He's since died, but he was a real gunnery sergeant. He was a real drill instructor in the Marine Corps. And I'll tell you, if you haven't seen Full Metal Jacket, you should see it.
Okay.
But anyway, to answer your question, coming from, I really don't. The only evidence that I can remember of the apartheid in which we grew up in was they had neighborhood movie houses all over the city. Okay. And the 3 we had was the Plaza, the Roxy, and the Broadway. And they were integrated. It cost 12 cents to get in the movie. We'd go there on Saturdays and watch cartoons and all kinds of stuff, man. But they were integrated. But if you went downtown Buffalo, where the Main Street was just lined with movie houses, there had to been dozens of them. And they were, the black people had to sit upstairs in the balcony. White folks was downstairs. Okay. And it cost double. Cost 25 cents to get into the big movie houses downtown. And I remember we loved being out in the balcony because we would be up there making out with the girls. Occasionally, we urinate in our popcorn pail, okay, and throw it downstairs on the white folks downstairs.
Good stuff. Okay.
But Mr. McLemore, I want to just piggyback on what Pastor Sam was asking. He was saying, the Marine experience. So you go through the training. After the training is over, where are you stationed after you go through the trench?
That skips a lot of things. Going through the training. Going through the training was hell.
Okay.
I never will forget this one sergeant. I won't name names, but this one sergeant. Every time he was a Southerner, there's no question about it. He was a racist. He smoked and he had bad breath, and I know because every time he saw me, he would snatch me by the collar and pull me right up to his face, nose to nose, and tell me, "You're a nigger, aren't you?"
Wow.
No, sir. You are a nigger, aren't you? No, sir. Are you calling me a lie? No, sir. Then you're a nigger, aren't you? No, sir. I mean, it was that kind of dialogue that went on. Finally, when he couldn't break me down, he pushed me away sufficiently forceful enough that he would end up hitting me in the chin. Every time I saw him, he would do that. I could be anywhere. I could be in the mess hall line. He'd come up there and do the same thing. But, that wasn't the only. The boot camp was a brutal place. I mean,
generally.
The psychology of punishing the whole platoon for one guy's mistake and stuff like that. They had what they called duty drill instructors. Each company had like 3 or 4 drill instructors, and each night, 2 of those drill instructors would spend the night with the platoon. They'd put us to bed and they'd wake us up and all that kind of stuff. And they had a DI hut where just the drill instructors lived, because we lived in Quonset huts. Where I did. There were so many people on Parris Island in those days that they had, where they normally had 3 battalions, they had 5 battalions. And the battalion I was in the boondocks, literally in the sticks, but they had these Quonset huts, these 10 Quonset huts. And the DIs, the duty DIs had their own hut where they slept, where they slept. And whatever platoon messed up on the parade field, or the worst drilling platoon on the big parade field,
yes, sir,
which been miles wide and long and stuff, and there would be dozens and dozens of platoons marching and practicing and stuff. Whatever platoon was worse was the company that had what you call stump call. And stump call was like 1,800 hours. I can't believe I remember all. Stump call was 1,800 hours. That's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And whatever messed up the worst, they had the thumb call, and all that was, you had to go to the DI. Every man in the company had to go to the DI hut, bang on the door, go in, and get physically brutalized.
Wow. So it's like joining a gang.
It was. And you've seen the part where the guy, the recruits banging on the door, and then finally, I can't hear you, and then you got to hit it with your head, bang the Quonset hut with your head. I can't hear you, and then finally, get in here, you turd. And then you go in there, and they start either poking you with those swagger sticks, or popping you, or slapping you, or hitting you, or punching you. I mean, that's the way they release their own frustrations, whatever they may have been. But anyway, graduating from the United States Marine Corps boot camp at Parris Island was both the proudest and the most humiliating day in my life. It was the proudest day because I vividly remember, and I get chills every time I see this, marching by the review stand, all of these platoons, all in uniform, all in step, and then the DI, when you get to where the brass were on your right, there was the command, eyes right, and everybody marching except the guy on the extreme right looked to their right, and they were playing the Marine Corps hymn in the background, dun 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 dun. Dun.
Right.
I get chills every time I see that. So proud, man. I was 195 pounds. I knew I believed I could beat anybody, and I knew how to kill people with my bare hands.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Immediately after that, we went to the little town just outside of Paris Island. It's called Yamasee, South Carolina. And all Yamasee was, as far as I can remember, because I never went back. Yeah, I did go back once. I took my son and family down there. But it was just, the main street was just one street. It was right outside Jacksonville. No, I'm getting mixed up now. That was North Carolina. That was North Carolina. Yamasee was in the shadow of the incredibly renowned statue of the Marines raising the flag.
Oh, yeah. Iwo Jima? Yeah.
With a big statue. And in the shadow of that was Main Street, Yamasee. And all it was bars and brothels.
Yes.
Okay.
And there, at the time, the whole number of Marines that graduated on a day couldn't have been more than a couple of dozen out of hundreds. And the first thing we went to, and in those days, everywhere you went, you had to pick your rifle. And we had old M1 rifles. And everywhere you went, you took your rifle. And the first place we all the Marines headed, was to the bars.
Okay.
Well, obviously, we don't serve niggas in here. Okay. So all of the black Marines that were getting ready to go home from on leave, there had to be a couple of dozen of us. When we had our rifles, we started practicing drills, okay, because we couldn't get served in the bars. A handful of white dudes said, if you ain't serving them, we ain't going to drink either.
Okay.
So we were out there drilling until we waited for the bus. And waiting for the bus involved this. The Trailways bus. I don't know if they're still in business or not. If they are,
I remember Trailways.
Yeah,
I remember Trailways.
They're still in business, yes.
Okay. The Trailways bus, Greyhound didn't, I don't think Greyhound even serviced Paris Island, but the Trailways bus ran every hour. Okay. However, in order to go on that bus, now you got to understand, here we are, I'm dressed blue uniform, ready to go home, crowd, just had people honor me as a Marine. And come to find out that the Trailways bus ran every hour, but if you rode the main Trailway bus, black Marines had to sit on the back of the bus.
Okay.
Now, the alternative was every 4 hours, the all-colored bus, the all-colored Trailway bus was there. So because we couldn't go in the bar and drink, we were out there marching.
Working up a service.
Marching. You would think that those new recruits were marching, but we were marching like the marchers in the 8th and I drill team. You ever see that?
Okay.
The 8th and I drill team together when the Marines are doing all the tricks with the.
My father was a part of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
My father was a part of that.
Huh?
My father was a part of that. My father was a drill team. Was part of the drill team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't get embassy duty, so his second choice was the drill team.
Yeah. Okay. Then you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, anyway,
so you're working up a sweat out there. You're working up a sweat out there in your dress uniform.
Yeah. I said, the hell with this. I ain't waiting no 4 hours. So I got on the white trolley bus, and this is the most humiliating I ever felt. I'm sitting on the back of the bus in my dress blue uniform,
Yes.
Marine, from Paris Island all the way until we got past north of Baltimore, because the Mason-Dixon line is north of Baltimore, in I think it was Elkton, Maryland, before
Oh wow, I know that. Yes.
I could sit other than in the back seat of the bus. And mind you, this bus stopped in Washington, D.C. at a bus stop, and blacks could not go into the restaurant. We had to go around the back to a little, I don't know what you call it, but where they serve black people in the out of a back window.
Wow.
They served. That's where you had to order and receive your food.
Wow. So here you go. So you finally graduated, got to Paris Island, and you go through. How long were you in the Marines? 3 years? How long was your
4? That was 4 years.
4 years. Okay, so you do 4 years in the Marines. Then at some point, I read that you're working at a plastic factory, and someone suggests to you that you try for the state troopers in New Jersey, because by this time you've moved to New Jersey. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. I was. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was from Buffalo, New York. But while I was in the Marine Corps, I met my first wife, who was in the Navy.
Right.
Okay. And this is a long, convoluted story, so I don't want to really get too deep in the grass.
No, you don't have to.
In any event, my first wife was in the Navy. I met her while I was in the Marine Corps, and she was from East Orange, New Jersey. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, instead of going to Buffalo, to my home, I went to East Orange.
Okay.
And then I got a job in Patterson at the Celanese, I forget the name of the factory. They made Celanese plastic bags.
Okay.
And I'm working there, making these plastic bags that babies were reported of having suffocated from. And a guy was in the Marine came there to get a job, and I trained him, and I knew him.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember he used to tell me, man, I ain't staying here, man. This sucks. What are you gonna do, man? He said, I'm going to take state police exam. I'm gonna be a state trooper. I said, what the hell is a state trooper? I never saw a state trooper. He says, come with me, man. He said, come and take the exams, but got to be better than this. He said, that's them guys that ride around and just give people tickets and shit. That was pretty much his words.
And they still do to this day.
Yeah. So I went. I never will forget. I went to Parsippany Troy Hills. I didn't know jack about the state of New Jersey because I'm not from Jersey.
Right.
But I went to Parsippany Troy Hills. That's where they took the examination. Mm-hmm. They gave the examination, took the exam. Later on, somebody told me, I don't know if this is true, said I got the highest mark that anyone had ever got in the state police.
Wow.
And the two only missed, I understand later on, they only missed two questions, and both of them were about New Jersey geography, which I didn't know anything about. Like, what route would you take to get from Patterson, where I lived at the time, to Atlantic City? And yeah, I didn't know 1 and 9 and Parkway and all. I didn't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
And I missed that one. The other one was, what route would you get to get from Trenton to Asbury Park? Route 33 at the time. I didn't know nothing about that. But those are the two questions that I missed.
Okay.
But anyway, make a long story short, I ended up getting appointed to the state police. Went back through another pseudo hell because they tried to replicate boot camp in Parris Island.
Wow.
Yeah. But you've been there. You've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I said you had been there and done that.
Now,
I did.
Where was the state police training at this time?
Was it a
It was in West Trenton.
Oh,
really?
What?
The headquarters is state police headquarters is in West Trenton.
Yeah, okay. I know that, but I can't imagine that back then. That's where the training took place. I was going to say Seagirt, and I think Pastor Sab said the same thing.
Well, it moved to Seagirt, but State Police Academy was from its inception was in West Trenton.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wow. Gymnasium, barracks, the whole 9 yards. The cafeteria where you ate, everything, the whole thing. It's still there.
Okay.
Right off 29, right?
Yeah.
Right off Route 29, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got a point. I didn't know nothing about New Jersey, and I didn't know that it was an issue that New Jersey, in particular, the NAACP and other civic organizations were really pushing for a black trooper. I never knew anything about that. I didn't know about the politics of New Jersey. All I knew is that I was in good shape. I was in the best shape probably of my life. I knew how to box when I was in the Marine Corps, so I was knocking dudes out and stuff in the academy. They thought I was like some super guy, and I really wasn't. I never. But anyway,
you were just an angry black man.
The academy. Huh?
You were just an angry black man.
I wasn't. I really wasn't.
Okay.
I didn't become an angry black man until years later. I graduated in 1951. I became an angry black man when I went to the Newark riots and saw.
Talk to us about that. Talk to us about that, because I read that you were they rousted you out of bed. You had to meet with the rest of your crew in what was it, Hightstown, and then y'all went up the turnpike, and you ended up being stationed outside of this burned out shop, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I read that you had this situation where there was this young black boy came up to you and was calling you silly and all of that, and you were trying to, get the kid out of the way, moving back, and tell us what happened there.
Yeah, that was a defining. I would say, looking back, that was a defining moment of my life, because all my life, having grown up insulated from the apartheid in which that existed at the time. Mm-hmm. And other than the brutality that I sustained in boot camp, I didn't really attribute that necessarily to racism, except for the one, because everybody caught hell in boot camp.
Right.
But black troops caught it worse, no question about that. But in any event, I was kind of, all my life people said, oh, you're exception to your race, and oh, you were so proud of you, and you graduated summa cum laude from high school, and you were the boy most likely to succeed, and now you're a proud Marine walking around, like you could kill you know how to kill somebody, and I did. And then to be humiliated by this young kid right in the midst of terror. Mm-hmm. Newark riots were terror. And I'm standing there in my what do you call it?
Riot gear?
Riot gear. I'm standing there in my riot gear with my 2 bandoliers of M1 ammunition across my chest, and I got my M1 rifle on my hip, and standing, like some robot, like those British guards.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes, over in front of Buckingham Palace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm standing there like that, and all of a sudden I noticed this little kid, he, 10, 12 years old at least at the most, and he's standing there looking up at me with his arms crossed. So I looked down. Now you got to understand. Now we're in a line where there's this burnout ShopRite. There must have been thousands of people on the street, and it was crazy. And we're standing there guarding this ShopRite, so there would be no more looting. And it was state police and National Guards, and we were like in a line on a row up Springfield Avenue guarding this store. I think it was Springfield and Bergen Avenue.
Okay.
Bergen Street and Springfield Avenue or something.
Yeah, Newark Central Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, Newark Central Ward. Yes, sir.
So I'm standing there, and I look down and see this kid, and he says, I don't want to use the language he used, right. But he said, "You silly mother sucker." You silly mother sucker. And I looked down at him, I didn't say nothing to him. He says, you should see how silly you look standing there. And so I kind of muttered, get out of here, kid. You better get out of here. And no sooner as I said that, a Newark cop, they were like walking up and down inside the perimeter that we provided. And by we, I mean with the state troopers provided the perimeter. And then there was the National Guards interspersed between the troopers and the Newark cops. They were walking up and down, this corridor that we provided, we being troopers and National Guard.
Right.
And this cop comes up to this kid and jams a shotgun up under his chin. And the kid is cursing him out as the cop is walking him away from me. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, man, this is crazy. I begin to rethink who I am and who are the good guys here and who are the bad guys.
Yes.
Because of course, as the cop walked him out, he was calling all kinds of racist epithets, like, you little nigger, and stuff like that. But anyway, I think that was the moment of truth in my life, a defining moment, because I start really thinking about who I was and where I was going to go. I couldn't, and then after that, there was they had a banquet hall. P. Ballantyne Beer Company had a big banquet hall where they just had all kind of food and drink. But when you went off duty, you went out to P. Ballantyne, and they had all this food and beer and everything you wanted. And then when you left it, when you glutted yourself there, you left there and you went to the armory, the Rosedale Armory. I don't know why. And now I can remember that and can't remember what I ate yesterday. But anyway, we would go to the Rosedale Armory. And that's where the bunks where we slept. And I had to, after being, on the streets all day, seeing all kind of crazy stuff, I had to listen to all the so-called war stories that my compatriots would be relating about their adventures on the streets.
Yes.
So anyway.
And using choice language, no doubt.
Pardon?
And using choice language to describe your people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no question about that. No question about that. And that's the one thing I've been trying, I'm getting to a point where I'm beginning to wonder about what I remember. That's scary, man, because, some of this stuff seems real and some of it doesn't seem real. Mm-hmm. But I was just looking at a memo that I printed out for some reason not recent. I printed it out recently, but I prepared it some time ago, some years ago, and I don't remember why I prepared it. But anyway, what it was an affidavit that some black kid made or provided that portrayed or described the murder and execution of one of the young black victims during the Newark riots. I even forget his name, but he was the kid that I should have really looked this up, knowing that I'd probably be talking about it. But he was on Life magazine, laying on the ground, and he had like more than 40 bullet wounds in him. And for some reason, I had an affidavit from this kid who apparently witnessed that kid's execution, and it suggested that he had broken into a liquor store or something, and the cops cornered him in there and executed him.
Wow! Lord have mercy.
And that was on Life magazine. It was Life magazine documented it.
Mr. McLemore, let me just ask this question. So, at what point, when you are considered the first African American to join the New Jersey Police, State Police, what kind of accolades is the community, particularly the black community, waving upon you or giving you?
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I mean,
what do you mean by accolades?
Have you received any recognition? What kind of recognition have you received?
At that time, when they found out that you were the first African American state police.
Oh, okay.
What did the black community do for you?
Well, when you say black community, I don't know if there was any black community in those days.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of colored folks.
Okay.
And a few organizations that were trying to advance black people. Okay. And you got to remember, this was 1961.
Yes.
They hadn't even passed the Civil Rights Bill yet.
Yes.
They hadn't passed the Voting Rights Bill. We were still living in apartheid in those years.
Yes.
So when you say black community, I'm sure there was effort. I didn't even know that it was an issue that they were looking for a black trooper. Okay. But I got honored by some organization up in Newark. I have a picture of it with me with the person with it. But people were proud of me, I'm sure. And I got recognition from many people. But the most amazing recognition of my trooperhood was when it was amazing because the president of the NAACP, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he was the president of the Trenton area NAACP.
Yes.
Okay.
One time announced to two visitors from the city of Oakland, California.
Yes.
One of whom was an original Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was the national treasurer of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. They were here trying to induce the black superintendent of schools to come to Oakland and be their school superintendent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually he did and got killed out there.
Mm.
And these two guys ended up in the Tuxedo Club.
I remember the Tuxedo Club, yes.
And I stopped in the Tuxedo Club. I was going to college at that time, night school, Trenton State College. And instead of taking and I had a troop car because I was assigned to police community relations. This was after the Newark riots. And I was assigned to police community relations unit in division headquarters. And basically all they wanted me to do was to go to any black functions or rallies and stuff like that and spy on them.
Oh.
That's basically what they wanted me to do.
Wow.
provide intelligence for what the black folks was doing. That's what they wanted me to do. So, and I refused to do it. I did it, but I did it in such a way that that's a whole other story. But anyway,
episode 2.
I'm in the Tuxedo Club and I'm rapping with. I'm really amazed by these two guys. Mm-hmm. From Oakland, California, where the Panthers were and all that. I was really I'm trying to find the word for it. I was really impressed with them, and I was in the middle. I was probably in the height of my own militant rhetoric. I just read Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. I read Malcolm X. I read all that stuff, and I just started learning who I really was and what somebody was telling me I need to do. So we're enamored with each other. They couldn't believe that I was a trooper,
right?
Because I had all the rhetoric, man. I believed it, man. Rap, all them guys were my heroes and stuff, man.
I got you.
So what's his name? I ain't gonna say his name, but the president of NECP paid me. That was the highest compliment I could have in those days. He told these two guys, one of whom was a Black Panther, he told them that I was the most militant nigga in the city. Can you imagine that? Wow. The president of the NAACP was telling two comrades, one of whom was a Black Panther, that a black state trooper was the most militant guy in the city of Trenton. What did that tell you about the city of Trenton?
I'm gonna leave that alone. Let's talk about this though, because now, okay, so you have been. I don't want to use the term radicalized because, in this day and time, that's a bad term. But you have been, your eyes have been open to a number of things based on your own experiences. You're beginning to think in different ways based on literature, that has been, what regarded literature actually. Malcolm X, autobiography of Malcolm X, Soul on Ice. I can remember, my reading in that time, the autobiography of Angela Davis. So I remember, the language of that material. But here you are now. Okay, you're in this position. To use the title of a book that I used to read as a kid, you're the spook who sat by the door.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're the spook. Yeah. You're the spook who sat by the door, and you get ready to go back. Okay, and it's during this period, that you decide to flip. That I'm imagining you decide to flip the script because it's during this time from 70 to 76. You go to Trenton State College, and you graduate Phi Beta Kappa. That blows my mind. You graduate Phi Beta Kappa while still working full time as a state trooper. Then you go to an Ivy League law school. Okay, this is not a rinky dink law school. You go to the law school of the University of Pennsylvania. Okay, and graduate cum laude there.
No, that's not true. I didn't graduate cum laude. I just barely made it.
Okay, so you graduated. Thank you, Lord. But you graduated.
You got to learn that I went to college, and I went to Trenton State College, which is the College of New Jersey, which I refused their diploma. They wanted me to change my diploma. I said, no, I didn't go to the College of New Jersey. I went to Trenton State College. They didn't want Trenton in it. But anyway, I lost my thought.
Yeah, well, I'm asking. I guess the question is, okay, here you are. Okay, you decide. You have become. Your eyes have been opened again by your experiences and by literature that you're reading. You decide to go back to school. You get these two very impressive degrees. in a very impressive manner while still working full time. By the way, you need to thank the Lord for your wife because you put up with all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the other aspect of it. I just barely got through law school. However, during that period of time, okay, I had a wife and 3 children, okay, that I had to care for and provide for. I worked a midnight shift in the state police and went to law school and college all day. Okay. Wow. So, I don't know if I would have done any better in law school than I did, but I don't attribute it to me. I have to go spiritual on that. It was the Lord that got me through, man.
No question.
Pastor Sam, let me just ask this question. Mr. McLemore,
sure.
Your Honor, what you mentioned your spiritual understanding, your spiritual connectivity, but what was internally your real driving force as to why you would go through so much? What was the end game for you?
That's a question. That's where I was going.
That's a good question. What was my end game?
I mean, why would you go
through all that? I mean, that's 6 years of education, that's 2 degrees. Yeah. That's putting your family through an awful lot. That's putting an awful lot on your own shoulders, going to school at night, the whole 9. What was your goal? It was within a context where your thought process has changed because of your experiences. You become an attorney, you become a civil rights attorney against the advice of Leon Higginbotham, because he tells you to go criminal and get paid.
You know what he told me? I studied under the Honorable A. Leon Higginbotham Jr.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Not only did I study under him at Penn, he was my client. His father, A. Leon Higginbotham Sr., was involved in a motor vehicle accident on Olden Avenue at its intersection with Arctic Parkway.
Yes.
Very well.
At the time, I think I had graduated from law school, but Higginbotham was from Trenton. He's from Ewing. Right. He lived right out on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right.
Higginbotham called me and asked me to represent his dad. So I represented his dad in Ewing Municipal Court and got him off. And we became friends. He was my mentor. I knew him as my teacher and instructor. We became friends. I used to go down to his chambers on Saturday and study under him. And he was a great man. He should have been on the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas served his seat. Brilliant man. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then his dad died, and of course I probated his dad's estate.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we buried his dad, right at the funeral, right in Ewing Cemetery, his mother keeled over and died right during So I probated his mother's estate as well. So he was a friend, a client. He was my mentor, a friend, and a client. And thereafter, he used to invite me down to various conferences when he was the big presiding judge of the Third U.S. Circuit.
Yes.
He used to invite me to their annual conferences, me and my wife, and they used to have dinner dances. And he used to invite me all the time. But I loved him, man. I loved him like a brother, man.
But Your Honor, I want to go back to my original question. What was, as Pastor San mentioned before, what was your driving force for why you continued to go through with all that you were going through?
I have to really put some real thought into that. Okay. When you say driving force,
I mean, because many
God, the Holy Spirit, was the driving force.
Okay.
But if you say what motivated me to do it was, I guess I just had to prove that the best way I can articulate it now, at age 84,
yes, sir,
and being an OFI watcher for the last 30 years, I had to show to people that white privilege is not equivalent to white supremacy.
Preach.
Wow.
That's the best way I can articulate it. White privilege is not equivalent to white supremacy.
Wow.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that.
So
I love that.
So
I'm
only responding to your question.
No.
No.
You responded well. You responded well.
You responded well, sir. No. You responded well. And so, go ahead.
And every time I see the word, you're going to have to excuse me because I'm going to urinate now. You might hear it.
Oh, no. I'm going to put the tape on hold.
Yeah, put it on hold.
Yeah, okay.
I got weak kidneys. I got weak kidneys, man. All right, I'm finished.
And they will be careful editing, no doubt.
No, but you know what? But that's the human side of our honor. That's the human side of the mortal.
Did I answer your question, Kevin? Did I answer your question?
You did.
Now, have you restarted it yet, Kevin?
I'm sorry?
Have you restarted it yet?
Oh yeah. We're back now. Yeah, we're back now.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
I haven't. I have subconsciously been aware of that proposition. Actually, since I started writing my book.
Okay.
I wrote a book called God's Sovereignty and the Law of Causality.
Oh.
God's sovereignty and the law of causality. It's Amazon still has it as they still have it as available. I guess I don't know.
Okay.
I only got 10 complimentary copies. I gave them all away. But I was a double major from college, Trenton State College. I had a major in philosophy and political science. So my book is heavy. It's heavy. It's readable, and I think understandable to someone with a reasonable degree of education. But anyway, I go into that real deep. And ever since I was writing my book, I started writing in 2006. I was still on the bench. And then when I retired in 2008, from 2008 until 2014, when I published it, I was heavy into it, man. And I did a lot of research. It's completely scriptural based.
Okay.
I had to get permission in order from the New King James Version, because I had so much scripture in it.
Okay.
But every proposition I make, every proposition, political, religious proposition that I make is based on the Bible, on the King James Version.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I make many of them.
Yes.
But anyway, one of the things that was a recurrent thought in my consciousness was that one of the problems with the state of affairs, the current state of affairs in this nation and probably in the world, is the equation of white privilege with white supremacy. White folks, there's nothing that white people are superior to us than mendacity. They are superior to us in mendacity.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
But in almost every other human respect, black men, and definitely spiritually and morally, black people are superior to white people.
Okay.
And I'll tell people that in a minute and can justify it with history.
Yes.
Okay? And they know it. They know it.
Well, I look forward to reading your book.
Absolutely.
And you say it's on Amazon. But I would like to, if I could, because I don't know what kind of timeline that we're on, but I know we probably only have a few minutes left. But I want to, just want to complete the cycle, of this history, that you have made. I mean, you've gone, you had the privilege, of being mentored by another history maker, Judge Elian Higginbotham Jr. But he advises you to go into. He advises you to go into criminal law. You go effectively into civil rights law. And then eventually make it to the municipal bench. What was that process like?
Higginbotham offered me a clerkship, okay, to be his clerk. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't afford it because his ceiling for salary was like $14,000. And I was making $17,400 as a trooper.
Okay.
And had a wife and 3 kids. So, I couldn't afford it. And not only that, I would have probably even tried to make that sacrifice. I had to move into Pennsylvania, and I wasn't going to do that.
Okay.
But he offered it. He offered me a clerkship. And I had to turn him down. Okay. But when I graduated from law school, I did a memo to the superintendent of state police, and telling him that I now had a law degree, and I'd like to start up a legal unit or something like that, because that was in the incipient years of unionizing the state police.
Yes.
And I said I could be not in opposition, but I could negotiate with them, but from the state's point of view. And I sent him a memo and everything, and he just ignored me.
Wow.
Because I asked him to make me an officer, make me a captain or something like that. I was only a trooper then.
Yes.
And he didn't even respond to me. So, that was that. But, I did what I had to do. I stayed in the state police as long as I could tolerate it. And then I left. I said, well, I got a law degree. What am I still doing here? So I resigned.
Wow.
In the meantime, I got some incentive to resign, and that's a whole nother story that would take hours to explain.
Yes. Because
it involved a confrontation with the 2 Trenton police, who I seriously thought about killing.
Wow.
Again,
Wow.
talking about divine guidance.
Yes.
You're talking about divine guidance that stayed your hand from doing that.
Yes. Your
I
Honor.
tell you, I used to leave my house with 3 weapons, 3 guns.
Yes.
I had a 2-shot Derringer that I had wrapped in a handkerchief in my pocket. I had a ankle holster with a 38 caliber 6-shot pistol, and I had a 25 automatic. And I went on the streets, and that was not because I was afraid of our people. I was afraid of police.
And you were the police.
And I was a policeman.
Wow. Listen, Your Honor, with the time that we have left, two
Yes.
thoughts. Can you give us some advice as to what a young person should want to do if he or she is interested in becoming a police officer? And what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue, I guess,
The law?
a law, something in law enforcement? I mean, well, I guess a law degree, opening up his or her own law firm of practice.
Well, when I was getting ready to, it reminded me to get back to your question, but I have to interject this.
Yes.
Because you asked me this previously, and I finally realized that I didn't answer you. When I was getting ready to embark on my legal career, I consulted with Higginbotham, and Higginbotham said, Paul, whatever you do, he said, do not practice civil rights litigation. That's what he taught me. That he taught me civil rights litigation in law school.
Yes.
Okay. It was a whole year course. So I said, well, Judge, why? He said, well, number one, white folks ain't going to be knocking your door down for you to represent them. He says, you're going to have a very small base, okay, for your practice, especially in Trenton.
Yes.
He said, the first thing I would advise you to do is move to Philadelphia. He says, and practice criminal law. He said, and I guarantee you, in 5 years, you'll be a very wealthy man. I said, come on, Judge, you can't be serious. He says, I'm serious. And he was absolutely right.
Wow.
You know why he was right? Because my classmate was named Ron White. And Ron White was a thug in Philly that the Quakers got a hold of, mentored him, sent him to Wesleyan College up in New England somewhere. He was sharp as a whip, got into Penn, graduated from Penn with honors, and started a practice in criminal law. And in 3 years, I understand that he put his wife through medical school.
Wow.
He got involved in politics with, what's his name? What's the black mayor's name? Not Wilson Good, but the other one.
Street.
Oh.
What's his?
Street.
Oh, what was the guy's name?
Yeah, the first Street.
Yeah, Street. Yeah,
Yes, yes. John Street.
He got involved in Street's organization, got indicted by the federal government for some, I forget what criminal charges, but before any trial came to fruition or any of the charges, Ron died. I don't know what he died from, but he was a young man. He died a young man. Ron White. Mm-hmm. He died a young man.
Wow.
But he was really heavy involved in Street's administration and in a lot of alleged criminality.
Wow.
But Ron, and I can understand that because Ron was like, he was really super, super bright. And he had a Magic Johnson smile that was endearing.
Yes.
Okay.
And people loved him, man. Everybody loved Ron White.
Wow.
But anyway, I don't even remember why I said all that. But I've had a wonderful life, man. The only negativity in my whole life is fighting racism. But I've been doing that all adult life.
Yes.
And
but what would your advice be? Again, what would your advice be to someone either looking to go into law enforcement or looking to become an attorney?
I wouldn't advise anybody to go into law enforcement, white or black. It's too dangerous.
Okay.
Okay? But if you are going to go in law enforcement, you got to remember that the thing that binds you to white cops can be removed. It's called the uniform. It's blue. Don't forget, you can't remove your black skin, because whether you cop or not, if you black, a whole lot of black cops get killed when they ain't in uniform.
Yes.
Not a lot, but you know. So what I'm saying is, you should never lose your true identity. Your outward appearance is not blue; it's black.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I advise. Go in there, make a lot of good money. When I joined the state police, my first salary was $4,309. $4,309 was the salary of a trooper when I went on the road.
Wow.
And I remember in Newark, when the Attorney General, I forget his name now, but he made a statement that he looked forward to the day when every law enforcement in this state earned $10,000 a year. And at the time, we was making like $8,800. Troopers were making $8,800. This was in 1967 in Newark.
Yes.
Okay? So, troopers now, I don't even know what they start at. They may start at $100,000. I don't know.
I think it's like
they make
60.
a lot of money.
I think they're starting at 60
Is it
now.
50?
No, 60.
Well, I know they make pretty good money now, and they earn every bit of it because it's a dangerous job.
Absolutely.
Now, with respect to law, I would say what I would counsel what Higginbotham counsel me. Don't practice civil rights litigation. If you want to be rich, if you want to, I'm not even sure it helps your community.
Wow.
But if you, I'm not sure.
Okay.
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 All I can say is that if you're going to do law, go for the money.
Understood.
Because once you become independently comfortable and wealthy, then if you want to do some good for your brothers and sisters, fine. God bless you.
Yes.
But if you want to look for your own family, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that I regret my life. I love my life. I've had a great life. I've had a wonderful life. The only negativity in my life is fighting racism all my adult life. My wife calls my law practice my ministry. And she's right.
Yes.
My law practice was my ministry. I helped a lot of people who could not afford to help themselves.
Yes.
With something that God had blessed me with, and that was a talent to practice law.
Yes.
How did that carry over? I know we got to go, but just can you give a sentence or two or summary as to how that experience of helping people, notwithstanding Judge Higginbotham's advice to go out to do other things, can you share how or even if your ministry to in helping people through the practice of civil rights law, if that had an impact on you when you became a municipal court judge?
Absolutely. Absolutely it did. Because I had 3 officers who worked my courts. They're the ones that announced my entry into court. And it's something to the ego when you walk in the room and everybody stands up. Okay?
To everybody, you the man.
That's right. And like when people call me Your Honor, people still call me Your Honor. And thank you, Kevin. You didn't have to do that.
I do. Yes.
Yeah, and so do you. But that's something for your ego. It really is. I mean, to me, I believe that my experience on the bench, 8 years, gave me an opportunity to make real that we live in a land where there's a rule of law, and I exalt the rule of God above the rule of law. And the rule of God is love your brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so
every time I went on the bench, one of the guys, God rest his soul, because I know he was in God's presence. Ron, I'm only going to call him by his first name.
Yes.
Ron was a cop. He's a Trenton cop, and he's one of the guys who used to announce me coming into the courtroom. He used to ask a lot of questions. I used to not preach, but teach and share the gospel with him all the time until he became a born-again Christian. And he died of cancer and everything. But he once told me, he said, Judge, out of all the judges that sitting here, and there was 4 or 5 of us, he says, you are the fairest and the most knowledgeable of them all. Wow. I'll never forget that.
Wow.
He said, you are the fairest and most knowledgeable of them all.
Wow.
So I'll never forget that. And then another one said the same thing to me. The other guy Mike he just recently retired, but Mike was a redneck man. I don't know if he's a Christian now because of some of his attitudes. I think there's a little racism in there, but he tried to be a fair man, and I tried to educate him, and hopefully I did, because every year he wishes me happy birthday, Your Honor, and all this kind of stuff. So,
amen. Amen.
Yeah. So I think he might have seen the light, because the way I see it, he's on Facebook. He's on Facebook, and some of the things, the entry he has, tells me he might have changed. He might have seen the light.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, so we're out of time, but I just want to thank my wonderful co-host, Pastor Sam Atchison.
Thank you for inviting him.
Yeah, and then certainly this would not be the tremendous successful episode that I know it's going to be without the honorable, my neighbor, Paul McLemore Sr., my neighbor, the
honorable. I'm genuflecting even now.
Yes.
I'm genuflecting even now.
It's been my pleasure to share these moments with you guys.
Yeah, we just want to thank you for continuing to be a first, continuing to be a trendsetter, and continuing to leave us a legacy for all of us to follow, black, white, or indifferent.
Amen.
I think that you speak truth to power, and we certainly want to live up to all the things that you believe to be truthful.
Amen.
Okay.
All right?
All right, sir.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Somebody's trying to call me.
All right. We're gonna let them call you now, sir.
All right, sir.
All right. You guys have a blessed day, and God bless you for the rest of your life and everybody who you love.
All right. We'll talk to you.
Amen. You too, sir. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Amen. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. Bye.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. We look forward to you joining us for our next one. Until next time.